You know that feeling, right? When the air just sort of leaves the room, you're at some high-stakes event. Maybe it's a job interview you've been prepping for all week.
Or a wedding where you don't know anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Or you're just meeting a new neighbor over the fence. You shake hands, you smile, everything seems fine. And then, bam, you get hit with it.
The most terrifying command in the English language.
Tell me about yourself.
It's brutal.
It is. It sounds so simple. I mean, it's you. You are the world's leading expert on you.
Right.
But the moment those 4 words land, it's like a total system failure.
Your brain just short circuits.
It does. You either freeze up completely or, maybe worse, you start rambling. You're talking about your elementary school or your cat's dietary habits?
Well, it's the classic, paradox of choice. The question is so aggressively open-ended that it just feels like a trap.
A trap, that's a good word for it.
We panic because we don't actually know what the other person wants. Is it your resume? Your life story? We just don't know, so the lack of parameters paralyzes us.
Exactly. And that creates this universal anxiety. But today, we are going to fix that.
We're going to try it.
We are doing a deep dive into this really fascinating script. It's titled Mastering the Art of the Personal Introduction.
It's from the Learning English podcast with 2 language experts, Emma and John.
And before you tune out thinking, oh, this is just Grammar 101, you really have to hold on.
Right, because while the source is, technically for advanced English learners, the framework they lay out is honestly a masterclass in communication for anyone.
It doesn't matter if English is your first language or your 5th.
If you talk to other humans, you need this.
So our mission today is to deconstruct their advice. We're going to take their specific framework, they call it the elevator pitch, and really unpack how to turn that awkward moment into one of, total authority.
Speaking with conciseness, articulation, and actually engaging the person you're talking to.
What's so great here is they don't just give you a list of phrases, they give you a structure.
A narrative arc, yeah. One that you can sort of drape your own life over. It's about shifting your whole mindset from just reciting facts about yourself to telling a story.
I love that. Okay, so let's dive right in. The source kicks off by identifying the absolute biggest trap people fall into. They call it the biography blunder.
Ah, yes. This is the default mode for almost everyone when they get nervous. You hear, tell me about yourself, and you think, okay, chronological order, starting from birth.
Right. It's like a defense mechanism. We cling to chronology because it feels safe. It's the only thing we're sure of.
It is. And John, one of the hosts in the source, has this hilarious line about it. He warns against giving a chronological breakdown of your dietary habits from kindergarten.
Which is funny, but it gets to a really critical error, doesn't it? We think our own context is fascinating.
Of course we do. We lived it. But the listener, they aren't looking for a documentary. They don't have time for a Ken Burns miniseries about your life.
They want the trailer.
Exactly, the highlight reel. They need a snapshot of your current identity. If you start with where you were born, you've already lost them.
By the time you get to what you actually do today, they're off planning their grocery list.
Their eyes have totally glazed over.
So the goal has to shift from telling my history to providing a compelling snapshot.
And that's a huge mental shift. It means you have to be willing to cut, 90% of your life story from the intro?
That takes some courage.
It does. But to do that, Emma and John propose this 3-tiered framework. It's a rigid structure, but that rigidity is actually what gives you freedom.
Okay, what is it?
It's the present, the past, and the future.
Present, past, future. Okay, see, most people I know start with the past and work their way forward.
I know, and that's the mistake. This framework demands you start with the present. They call it Tier 1, the anchor.
The anchor, okay.
It's crucial. You have to establish the status quo immediately. Who are you right now? The listener needs a category to put you in.
Their example is pretty clear. John says, I'm currently based in the city, working as a podcaster and language curriculum developer.
See that? It's short, it's punchy, it immediately places him in a specific context. And grammatically, the source points this out, but it's really about psychology. He's using present simple or continuous. I am based. I am working.
It grounds the listener and says, okay, for this conversation, this is the box you can put me in.
Precisely. It stops the guessing game. If you start with, well, I grew up in Ohio, I still have no idea if you're an accountant or a trapeze artist.
Right.
Starting with the present solves that mystery right away. You are anchoring the whole interaction in the now.
Okay, so you plant that flag. Here's who I am right now. Then you move to Tier 2. The past. But wait, didn't we just say not to do the biography thing? How is this different?
This is the nuance, right? The past in this framework is not a random list of facts. It's a bridge.
A bridge, I like that. Connects where you were to where you are now.
Exactly. You are selecting only the experiences that explain how you arrived at the present. You are curating your history to support your current identity.
So if a past job doesn't explain your current role, it gets cut.
It's gone.
Let's use the example from the source. The character says, prior to this role, I obtained my degree in communications and spent 3 years at a boutique radio station.
Okay, but here's the key part, he adds.
Which is where I discovered my aptitude for public speaking.
See the difference? He didn't mention his summer job scooping ice cream. He didn't mention that he briefly studied biology. He only mentioned the radio station because it directly validates why he's now a podcaster.
It creates a logical career trajectory. It makes it look like you had this master plan all along.
Even if your path was actually, like most of us, kind of messy and chaotic.
Totally chaotic.
You're creating that narrative thread in retrospect. You're showing the listener, I am here today because of this specific thing I did yesterday. It creates trust.
It shows you're building on a foundation.
Right. Not just jumping around, it's narrative coherence.
So we have the anchor, the present, and the bridge, the past. Now, tier 3, the future. This is the one I think people forget the most.
We do. We usually just stop after the past.
Huh.
But adding the future is what makes you dynamic. This is the aspiration tier.
The source gives an example. Something like, moving forward, I'm keen to expand my horizons by traveling more. Or, for a job, launching a new project.
And by including that, you're signaling you're forward-thinking, you're goal-oriented, you're not just a static collection of past achievements, you're a person with momentum.
And they highlight vocabulary like aim to or aspire to. It's very active language.
Yeah, it invites the listener to be part of your potential, not just an observer of your history. In a job interview, this is absolutely critical.
You're basically saying, this is where I'm going, and if you hire me, you get to come with me.
It completely changes the dynamic from evaluate me to join me.
Okay, so putting it all together, the framework is, here's who I am, here's the specific experience that got me here, and here's where I'm going next.
Simple, linear, and so effective, it answers the who, how, and where in like 3 sentences.
But this is but you can't use the same exact paragraph for a CEO that you'd use for, I don't know, a guy at the gym.
No, of course not. And that brings us to the next big concept from the source, calibration.
Context is king.
Exactly. The structure, present, past, future, that stays the same. That's your skeleton. But the meat on the bones has to change depending on the room you're in. You have to read the room.
Okay, let's look at their scenarios. They really highlight this. Scenario A is the corporate interview.
Right. So in this case, your present needs to focus on your professional value proposition. The source quotes, I am currently a senior marketing specialist with 5 years of tenure in digital strategy.
Very formal, very hire me, full of buzzwords.
Yeah, it signals competence. It answers the employer's subtext, which is, can you do this job? But now look at scenario B, the casual setting. They use a conversation at a gym.
I love this one.
Yeah.
Because if you actually use that corporate line at the squat rack,
Oh, it'd be so weird.
it'd sound like a robot. Hello, I am a senior marketing specialist. The other person would just slowly back away.
It would be so off-putting. It breaks the social contract of the gym. So in the gym scenario, the content shifts to be relevant to the environment.
The character says, I used to play competitive football, but lately I've shifted my focus to weight training. My target is to improve my overall endurance by next summer.
Let's track that. It's still present, past, future.
Oh yeah, present, focusing on weight training.
Yeah.
Past, used to play football. Future, improve endurance by summer.
It's the exact same architecture, just a totally different facade. This is calibration. It's about answering the subtext.
What's the subtext at the gym?
Tell me about yourself in relation to why we are both sweating in this room right now. They don't care about your marketing degree.
That is such a good way to put it. It's about making yourself relevant to the situation.
And it stops you from oversharing. You're filtering your identity through the lens of the moment. It just makes you socially smoother.
Okay, so we've got the basic structure. We know how to calibrate it. Now let's get into the advanced tactics. This is how you go from being clear to being truly memorable.
Right. Because clarity gets you the interview, but memorability gets you the job.
So what's the first tactic?
The source calls it intrinsic motivation, finding your why.
Moving beyond just facts into passion.
Yes. The source gives a great example of a teacher. You could say, I am a teacher. I teach math. It's a fact. It fits the framework. But it's dry.
It's beige.
Totally beige. Compare that to the Scripps version. I am a teacher because I find immense satisfaction in that aha moment when a student grasps a complex concept.
Wow. Yeah, that's infinitely more powerful.
It hits you right in the chest, doesn't it?
It does. It humanizes you.
As soon as you share why you do something, you're inviting engagement on an emotional level. You're not just a job title. You're a person with values.
And that makes you stick in someone's mind. They might forget you teach math, but they'll remember you're the person who loves those aha moments.
It creates an emotional hook.
Speaking of hooks, the second advanced tactic is literally called the hook.
I love this one. A hook is a unique little trivia point about yourself. But it's not random. It's designed to beg for a follow-up question.
A strategic breadcrumb.
Exactly. The example in the source is, I'm an avid collector of vintage maps.
Okay, so how does that work in practice?
Well, think about it. You finish your intro. Usually there's that awkward silence while the other person tries to think of what to say next.
They're panicking a little bit too.
Right. So by dropping a hook like vintage maps, you are handing them a conversation starter on a silver platter. You're making it easy for them.
They can immediately ask, oh, wow, what's the oldest map you have?
Or where do you find them? Exactly. It gives the conversation somewhere to go. It turns your monologue into a dialogue. It relieves the social pressure for everyone.
So we have the framework, the calibration, the why, and the hook. Now execution. Because you can have the best script in the world, but if the delivery is off...
It doesn't matter. And the source is very strict about one rule in particular, the 60-second rule.
Only 1 minute. That feels really short.
Anything longer than that, and you risk losing their attention.
When I'm talking about myself, a minute feels like 10 seconds.
It feels short to the speaker, sure, but in a conversation, a minute is actually a long time. If I just talked at you for a solid minute right now without stopping, you'd start checking your watch.
That's true. You'd feel trapped. So it requires real discipline to edit yourself.
You have to be ruthless. And if you're really sticking to the present, past, future structure, you should naturally fall within that time limit anyway.
It's the highlight reel, not the director's cut.
Perfectly said. Brevity shows confidence. It shows you respect their time.
What about the nonverbal stuff? Emma in the source makes a big point about this.
She does. She notes that if your words are confident but you're slouching and avoiding eye contact, the message gets lost.
Classic actions speak louder than words.
It's all about congruence. You have to embody the story you're telling. If you say, I'm excited about my future, but you're looking at your shoes, the listener's brain is going to believe your body, not your words.
Right. Shoulders back, eye contact. But, and this is important, John gives some advice on perfectionism because I think people try to memorize this and then they just get stiff.
This is my favorite part of their advice. He says, if you stumble, smile and breathe.
Because we're not robots.
Right. Authenticity is way more attractive than a robotic, perfect delivery. If you mess up a word, it's okay. In fact, seeing you handle a little stumble with grace just makes you more relatable.
It actually shows more confidence. Like, I messed up, but I'm cool enough to just smile and keep going.
Exactly. It's about connection, not performance art.
So let's bring this all together.
Yeah.
If we look at the sources checklist, we've basically got 5 main points.
Yeah, let's run through them. Number 1, highlight real, not life history. Avoid that biography blunder.
Number 2, use the framework. Present, past, future.
In that order. Number 3, explain the why. Show your passion. Humanize the facts.
Number 4, keep it under 60 seconds. Be ruthless.
And number 5, use a hook. Spark curiosity and help the conversation along.
It is such a solid checklist.
Yeah.
And what I love is that the source reminds us this isn't just for English learners. This is a masterclass for anyone.
Absolutely. I don't care if you've been speaking English for 50 years. Most people are terrible at this. We ramble, we get shy, we undersell ourselves.
Applying this structure, even just loosely, can totally change how you're perceived.
It turns a moment of panic into a moment of power. It really does.
For sure.
And, this raises a slightly deeper question for me. The mission of that podcast is to truly inhabit the language. But I think there's something here about inhabiting your own life.
What do you mean by that?
Well, think about it. If you really struggle to answer, tell me about yourself in under a minute. If you can't articulate your present, your past, and your future clearly, is that a language problem?
Or is it a clarity problem?
Exactly.
Ooh, that's deep.
It forces you to ask yourself, do I actually know who I am right now? Do I know how my past connects to my present? Do I even know what I want for the future?
So the struggle might not be about finding the right words at all. It might be about finding the right self-definition first.
I think so. You can't introduce a stranger to a person you haven't really met yourself. If you don't know who you are, how can you tell anyone else?
That is a very provocative thought to leave us on. So for you listening, maybe try it out, not for an interview, just for yourself. Try to introduce yourself to yourself using this framework.
It might just be the most important minute of your day.
I love that. Well, that's all we have time for today on The Deep Dive. Thanks for listening, and good luck with your next introduction.
Make it count.
See you next time. Welcome back to The Deep Dive. We are doing something a little bit different today.
Yeah, bit of a change of pace.
Right. Usually, we're looking at these huge topics, macroeconomics, the history of some big technology, these sweeping trends.
So the big picture stuff.
Exactly. But today, we're going microscopic. We're zooming in on this one specific, terrifying span of time. It lasts maybe, 3 to 5 seconds?
Oh, but it feels like 3 to 5 hours.
It feels like an eternity. I want everyone listening to just picture this for a second. You're at a networking event.
Right.
Or a friend's barbecue. Or maybe you're just, heating up your lunch in the office break room. And you see someone you don't know that well. You summon the courage. You walk over.
Yeah.
You initiate the ritual. Hi, I'm whatever your name is. They say, hi, I'm on their name.
Yeah.
You shake hands. Good grip. Eye contact is solid. You've done it.
Yeah.
You've successfully docked the spaceship.
And then all the systems fail.
The crash. The drop. The dreaded low.
It's a dreaded lull, yeah.
That heavy, suffocating, almost physical silence where the initial momentum of the introduction just evaporates instantly.
Go on.
And you're both just standing there. You're holding a paper plate with a hot dog on it. They're holding a drink. And you are both frantically, desperately searching the archives of your brain for literally anything to say that isn't, so nice weather we're having.
It's a visceral reaction, isn't it? If you actually look at the physiology of that moment, your cortisol levels spike. They really do. Your body goes into a mini fight or flight mode.
It feels like it.
Yeah, because your brain perceives social rejection or even just social awkwardness as a genuine physical threat. It's an ancient wiring thing.
So that's why your throat goes dry.
That's why your throat goes dry. That's why you start sweating. That's why your mind goes completely blank. It's not a character flaw. It's a biological response.
It's the worst feeling in the world. And I think a lot of people, myself included sometimes, we assume that being good at talking is just this, innate talent.
A gift you're born with.
Exactly. You have those friends. I have a friend, Dave, who can walk into a room full of strangers and 10 minutes later he's holding court. Everyone's laughing. He's like the mayor of the party.
We all know a Dave.
We all know a Dave. And I look at him and I think, okay, he was born with some charisma gene that I am completely missing.
And that right there, that's the myth we are here to bust today. The source material we've pulled for this deep dive, it's a whole stack of research on social fluency, specifically focusing on a module called The Art of Keeping the Conversation Alive. It argues that Dave isn't magic.
He's not.
Nope. Dave is just running a better algorithm.
An algorithm. I like that. That makes it sound learnable.
It is entirely learnable. I mean, that's the whole thesis of the sources we're looking at today. They argue that social fluency is a mechanical skill. It's like changing a tire or, coding in Python.
Okay, I'm much better at one of those than the other.
Well, the point is there are inputs and there are outputs. The problem is that most of us are running a very, very outdated operating system when it comes to small talk. We're using these scripts that are just fundamentally designed to fail.
So the mission for today's deep dive is to basically uninstall that bad software and install the new toolkit.
The upgrade.
The upgrade. We're going to break down the mechanics of moving past that hi, I'm Steve phase and actually building a bridge to a real, genuine conversation. But before we get into the tactics, and we have some really specific ones like the ARE method and this echoing technique, I think we have to address the reputation of the topic itself.
Oh, yeah.
Small talk.
It has a major branding problem.
It really, really does. I mean, if you ask most of our listeners who are, smart, efficient, deep-thinking people what they think of small talk, they'll probably just roll their eyes.
100%. They'll say, I hate it. It's superficial.
It's fake. I don't care about the weather. I don't care about traffic. I want to talk about ideas. I want to talk about the future of AI or, the meaning of life.
And look, that is a valid feeling. I get it. But the source material, it challenges that perspective pretty aggressively. It basically argues that if you try to jump straight to the meaning of life with a complete stranger, you're not going to look deep. You're going to look insane.
Right. Hi, I'm Mike. What is your single biggest regret in life?
Exactly. You haven't earned that access yet. The experts in this field, they describe small talk not as idle chatter, but as a social grooming ritual.
A social grooming ritual. Like monkeys.
It sounds weird, but think about it. If you look at primates, they pick bugs off each other. They're not doing it just for hygiene. It's a social function. They're doing it to say, I'm safe, I am near you, we're good, we're in this together.
So small talk is the verbal equivalent of picking bugs off each other.
In a way, yes. It's what the source calls the essential glue of rapport. It's the gateway to substantive conversation.
Okay, the gateway. I like that.
Yeah, you can't get to the deep stuff without first passing through the shallow stuff. It's the safety check. You're signaling to the other person, hey, I'm a normal human being who understands social norms, and I'm not a threat.
That reframing actually helps a lot. It's not a waste of time. It's the entry fee.
It's the entry fee.
It's the handshake protocol before the real data transfer can happen.
Precisely. And the source material is really blunt about this. It says, if you're bad at small talk, you will never get the chance to be good at big talk.
Ouch.
Yeah, because nobody will stick around long enough to find out you're brilliant.
Okay, that hits home. So let's assume we're sold, we're convinced of the importance, we want to be better. Where do we start? Let's look at the first major error in our coding, in our algorithm. The source material calls this the death of the yes-no question.
This is a big one. This is the most common conversational killer out there. It's the reason I would say 90% of those awkward lulls actually happen.
And I do this all the time. I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be interested. So I'll ask something like, did you have a good weekend?
Okay, let's play that out. I'm the other person. You ask me that. I say, yes, I did.
And we're done. Silence.
And we're done. The conversation is over.
The ball is right back in my court.
That is the perfect analogy for it. Think of a conversation as a game of catch. If I throw you the ball, which is the question, and you catch it, look at it for a second, and then just put it in your pocket, the game ends.
Right.
A yes or no question is an invitation for the other person to put the ball in their pocket. It resolves all the tension immediately. Did you like the movie? No.
Are you from here?
Yes. The data query is satisfied. From a purely logical standpoint, there is no reason to continue speaking.
And it puts a massive amount of cognitive load on me, the asker, because now I have to invent a completely new topic from scratch.
Out of thin air.
I have to reach back in my brain, find a whole other ball, and throw it. Okay, is the food good?
Yes.
Do you work downtown? It's exhausting. And it feels like an interrogation. I'm just peppering you with questions.
It is an interrogation. And, physiologically, it's uncomfortable for the receiver, too. They feel like they're being deposed. They're not being invited to tell a story or share something. They're just being asked to tick a box.
So why do we do it? If it's so obviously bad for conversation, why is, did you have a good weekend, the default setting for almost everyone?
Well, because it's low risk. And frankly, it's lazy.
Lazy.
Yeah. Asking a yes-no question requires very little mental energy from the asker, and answering it requires almost zero vulnerability from the answerer. It's safe, it's comfortable, but safe doesn't build connection. Safe builds silence.
Okay, so what's the fix? The source gives us a rule that sounds incredibly simple, but is actually, I think, quite hard to practice in the moment.
It takes practice, for sure.
Shift to open-ended questions.
Right. Your WH questions, what, how, why. I mean, these are basically the keys to the kingdom of conversation.
Let's workshop this a little, because I think people here ask open-ended questions and they nod, but then they go right back to, did you have a good time? Let's take some of those bad closed questions and turn them into good open ones.
Let's do it.
Okay, the classic we just used. Did you have a good weekend? How do we fix that one?
So you just change the auxiliary verb. Instead of starting with, did you try, how did you spend your weekend? Or, what did you get up to this weekend?
It seems like such a small tweak, but the difference in the kind of response you get is just massive. If I ask you, how did you spend your weekend? You physically cannot answer with just, yeah.
I can't. My brain is forced to give you data. I have to construct some kind of narrative, even if it's a short one. Oh, I mostly just chilled out, but I did manage to take the dog to the park on Sunday.
And there it is. That's what the source calls a conversational hook.
Hooks are everything. Everything. In that one short sentence, I took the dog to the park. There are two giant, easy-to-grab hooks. Dog and park. So now, as the listener, I don't have to invent a whole new topic. I don't have to panic. I just have to grab one of those hooks. I can say, oh, what kind of dog do you have? Or which park do you usually go to? Or even just, oh, I love dogs. And boom, the conversation is now fueling itself.
Let's try another one. This one's tricky. Where are you from?
That's technically open-ended, right? It starts with a WH word, but it so often leads to a one-word answer.
Yeah.
Chicago.
Chicago. End of story.
It's what you'd call a factual query. It's sort of closed-ended in spirit, even if it's open-ended in structure. A much better version might be something like, what's the best thing about growing up in Chicago? Or maybe, how does living here compare to where you grew up?
Ooh, I like that one. How does living here compare? That forces a comparison. It forces an opinion, a reflection.
And opinions are where personality lives. Facts are just data points. They're boring. Opinions are interesting. You're trying to get the other person to share their subjective experience of the world, not just their GPS coordinates.
I really love the example from the source text about using the highlight question. Instead of asking the standard, how was your week? Which almost always gets a good or busy.
The two default answers.
Right. Instead, you ask, what was the highlight of your week so far?
That is a power move. It's such a great question because it forces the other person to scan their memory, filter for a specifically positive event, and then share it with you.
So it frames the entire conversation positively from the get-go.
Immediately. And it almost always leads to a story. Not a fact. Oh, my daughter actually scored her first soccer goal on Saturday, or I finally finished this huge project at work that was just killing me.
And now you're off to the races. You're not talking about the weather anymore. You're talking about parenting or career achievements or childhood. You're in.
Exactly. But I do want to add a little layer of nuance here because I know our listeners are smart. Is there ever a time for a yes/no question?
I was just about to ask that. I mean, sometimes you just need to know if they want a beer.
Right. Do you want a beer? Yes. That is a perfectly functional and important interaction. Or if you're trying to close a logistical point, so are we meeting at 7? Yes, that's totally fine.
So it's about intent.
It's all about intent. The rule isn't never ever ask a yes/no question. The rule is don't ask a yes/no question when your goal is to generate conversational flow.
Flow. That's the key word. We're looking for momentum. Okay, so we're asking better questions. We're throwing them balls that they actually have to catch with two hands and think about. Now we need to talk about what we do when they catch it and start talking.
Right.
This brings us to part 2, active listening. But not the generic corporate training kind of active listening. We're talking about a very specific technique called echoing.
Echoing it's a technique that is used by everyone from therapists to FBI hostage negotiators. It is incredibly potent, but if you explain it badly, it sounds absolutely ridiculous.
It sounds like you're being a parrot.
It really does.
So let's explain the mechanics carefully. What exactly is echoing?
So echoing is simply repeating the last 1 to 3 words the other person said, or maybe the most critical piece of information, and saying it back to them. But, and this is the absolute key, you cannot miss this part. You have to do it with an upward inflection. You have to make it sound like a question.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. If I'm talking to you and every single time I finish a sentence, you just repeat my last 3 words back at me, aren't I going to think you're mocking me or that something is wrong with you? It sounds a bit manipulative.
That's the common fear. I'm going to sound like a robot, or they're going to catch on. But the research on this is fascinating. It shows that when it's done correctly, with the right, genuine, inquisitive tone, it is essentially invisible. The other person doesn't consciously notice you're doing it. They just feel incredibly heard.
Why does it work? What's the psychological mechanism at play?
Well, it taps into a deep-seated concept called mirroring. We're social creatures. We like people who are like us. When you mirror my language back to me, even just a few words, you're subconsciously validating my reality. You're proving that you are tuned in to my frequency.
Okay.
But the question tone, that upward inflection, does something else entirely. It signals. That part was interesting. Please elaborate.
So it's a tell me more button.
It's the most efficient tell me more button that exists, but it's better than saying tell me more because that phrase actually interrupts their flow. If I say tell me more about that, I'm technically giving you a command.
Right. A gentle one, but still a command.
Whereas if I just echo, I'm gently nudging you to continue on the path you were already on. It's frictionless.
Let's walk through one of the scenarios. I think this is crucial. Let's do the coffee shop scenario from the source material, because hearing the difference between a bad listener and a good echoer is where it really clicks.
Okay, great idea. Set the scene.
All right. We're at a coffee shop. It's a little noisy. We're catching up. I say to you, man, I have been so swamped at work lately. I've actually been thinking about taking a trip to the mountains to disconnect.
Okay, so here's the bad listener. Or, let's be fair, the average listener. They'll say something like, oh, cool, or nice, or maybe, yeah, work is crazy.
And as a speaker, I just feel deflated. Cool is a conversation stopper. It's a verbal period at the end of my sentence. My story is over.
Right. I acknowledged what you said, but I gave you absolutely no encouragement to continue. Now let's rewind and try it with echoing. You say your line again. Thinking about taking a trip to the mountains to disconnect.
Did you say?
To the mountains.
Pauses. You know, it's funny. Even just in this role play, I feel a physical pull. I feel a desire to explain which mountains or why the mountains. It's an open door.
And notice what I did there. I was selective. I ignored the swamped at work part. That's a negative complaining energy. I isolated the most positive, interesting, forward-looking part of your sentence. The mountains.
The aspirational part.
The aspirational part. And I used that inquisitive tone. To the mountains. It's not just a question. It's an invitation to daydream with me.
And my natural reply would be something like, yeah, maybe the Rockies. I haven't been skiing in years.
And then I can echo again. Skiing.
Yeah. I used to go every single winter when I was a kid with my family, and suddenly, without you asking a single traditional question, we're 5 layers deep into my childhood memories. All because you just repeated 2 words.
It is remarkably efficient, and it takes all the pressure off of you, the listener. You don't have to sit there racking your brain trying to come up with some brilliant, insightful follow-up question. You just have to listen for the hot word, the word with the most emotional energy, and just gently bounce it back.
It also forces you to actually listen. You can't be a good echoer if you're zoning out and planning your grocery list in your head.
You absolutely can't. It's a focusing tool. It forces you into the present moment of the conversation.
Okay, so we have open-ended questions to get the ball rolling. We have echoing to keep the ball in the air. But what if there is no ball? What if we are standing next to a total stranger, a cold approach, zero context?
The cold start. This is the absolute nightmare scenario for most of the introverts in the audience.
It is. The elevator ride with the CEO, the buffet line at the conference, the waiting room at the dentist. The source material provides a very specific structured framework for exactly this situation. It's called the ARE method.
Anchor, reveal, encourage.
I do love a good acronym. Makes things sticky and memorable. But I want to break this down really slowly because I think each of these 3 steps has some important psychology behind it that we might miss if we just rush past it.
Absolutely. The ARE method is specifically designed to move you from stranger to acquaintance in 3 smooth steps. It's all about bridging that initial gap of trust.
Okay, so step 1, anchor.
The anchor is about finding and commenting on a shared reality. See, when you meet a stranger, you have no shared history. You don't know their friends, their job, their politics, nothing. The only thing you share in that moment is the physical space you are both occupying right now.
The immediate environment.
The environment, the weather, the incredibly long line you're both in, the weird music that's playing, the quality of the coffee. The anchor is simply making an observation about that shared reality. Wow, this line is moving slowly, or I think this is the coldest conference room I've ever been in.
Why is this the necessary first step? I mean, why can't I just say, hi, I'm Mike?
You can, but it's a higher risk. An anchor is what's called a safe bid for attention. If I make a comment about the weather and you completely ignore me, I haven't really lost face. It was just a stray observation. But it also does something really important. It establishes that we're on the same team. We are both experiencing this cold room together. It grounds the interaction in commonality.
Okay, so we've anchored. Man, the food at this conference looks really good. Most people, I think, they stop right there. They make the observation, and then they just wait.
And that's where it dies, because an observation on its own isn't a conversation. It's just a statement.
So we need step 2, reveal.
This is the magic sauce. This is the step that 99% of people skip. The reveal is where you share a small, and I want to stress the word small, personal detail that's related to your anchor.
The source calls this micro-vulnerability.
I love that term. It's perfect. You're not confessing your deepest, darkest sins. You're not oversharing. You're just sharing a tiny piece of your internal state. You're connecting the environment, to the me, your personal experience.
So instead of just saying, the food looks good, I add, what would be a good reveal?
You might say, wow, the food looks good. I actually skipped breakfast this morning, so I am absolutely starving.
I am absolutely starving. That's the reveal.
That's the reveal. It seems trivial, right? But you're telling me something about your physical state. You are humanizing yourself. You are trusting me with a tiny, low-stakes piece of information about yourself.
And that opens what psychologists call a vulnerability loop. If you show me a tiny bit of vulnerability, it signals to my brain that you're safe, and it actually encourages me to be slightly vulnerable in return.
Exactly. If you just say, the food looks good, that's a fact. But if you say, I'm starving, that's a feeling, and feelings are what build rapport.
Okay, so anchor, reveal, and finally, step 3, encourage.
This is the handoff. This is where you pass the conversational ball. You've set the scene with the anchor. You've put yourself into that scene with the reveal. And now you explicitly invite them to join you in the scene.
And this is usually a question.
Almost always an open-ended question. So the full package would be, wow, the food looks good. Anchor, I'm starving. Reveal, how are you finding the conference so far? Encourage.
It's a complete package. It gives them context. It gives them a reason to trust you. And it gives them a clear turn to speak.
And it prevents that interrogation feeling we talked about. If you just walked up cold and asked, so how's the conference? It can feel really abrupt. By doing the anchor and reveal first, you've essentially warmed up the water before inviting them to jump in.
I want to really see this in action. The source material has a great role-play scenario set at a conference buffet line. But before we do the perfect ARE version, I want to do the failure version. Because I think we need to feel the pain to truly appreciate the cure.
Fair enough. Let's do the bad version first. Inflict the pain.
Okay, so I'm standing next to you in line. I'm feeling awkward. I want to talk. I turn to you and I say, the catering's pretty big today.
In a flat, unengaged tone. Yeah, it is.
After a pause. So do you. Like buffet food.
It's okay.
Groans. Ugh, it hurts. It's physically painful just to act it out.
It's just terrible. You offered a really weak anchor 0 reveal, and then you followed it up with a closed-ended yes-no question. I had absolutely nothing to work with. I just swatted your sad attempts away.
Okay, reset. Let's apply the ARE method properly now. I'm going to try to execute this perfectly. Same scene. Buffet line.
Go for it.
All right, I look at the massive spread of food. I turn to you and I say, wow, they certainly didn't hold back on the catering today. This spread looks elaborate. That's my anchor.
Got it.
Then I actually flew in on a red-eye last night and haven't really eaten since yesterday, so I am dangerously hungry right now. That's my reveal. And then, how are you finding the food so far? That's my encourage.
See how completely different that feels. As the listener, you've just given me so much to work with. You told me you traveled. You told me you're tired. You told me you're hungry. As the responder, I now have like 5 different doors I can choose to walk through.
Right.
I could say, oh, a red eye. Where did you fly in from? Or I could say, I know that dangerously hungry feeling. I'm starving too. Or I could say, the food is actually great. You should definitely try the salmon. You give me options.
You're creating more surface area for a good conversation to happen.
Exactly. You are dramatically increasing the surface area of the conversation. But let's take it to the mastery level. The source suggests that if I, the responder, am also socially fluent, I can use a combination of echoing and ARE in my response to really get this thing flying.
Ooh, okay, let's see what that looks like. So I just told you I'm dangerously hungry from a red-eye flight.
Okay, so instead of just answering your question about the food, I might say, dangerously hungry. Oh, I've been there. I actually struggle to sleep on planes at all, so red eyes are a complete nightmare for me. Did you manage to get any sleep?
Whoa. Okay, let's break that down. You echoed my phrase, dangerously hungry. You revealed that you also hate red eyes. And you encouraged me with a follow-up question about my sleep.
And just like that, we're not strangers anymore. We're best friends. We're bonding over the shared misery of modern air travel. The buffet is completely forgotten. We are deep in rapport.
And that entire seamless exchange took maybe 20 seconds.
That's the power of running the right algorithm.
I want to pause on the reveal part again for a second, because I think this is where a lot of people get stuck. They worry that revealing means oversharing. You know, the person who says, the line is long, I'm currently going through a really messy divorce.
Right. No, please don't do that. That is a macro vulnerability. We are advocating for micro vulnerabilities.
So what's the line? How do you know if your reveal is a micro or a macro?
The rule of thumb the source gives is, keep it relevant to the immediate context. If we're both standing in line waiting for coffee, revealing that you desperately need caffeine to function today is appropriate and relatable.
Okay.
Revealing your deepest childhood trauma is not. You have to match the level of vulnerability to the setting and the established level of trust, which, with a stranger, is 0.
That's a really good guardrail. Keep it contextual. Okay, so we've been focusing very heavily on the words, the script, so to speak. But the source material has a whole dedicated section on nonverbal communication. And honestly, this part scared me a little because I think I might be a bobblehead.
Whoops. The bobblehead syndrome. It's a common affliction.
We'll get to that. But let's start with the absolute basics. Eye contact. The source makes a very specific point about the cultural context here.
Yes, and this is important. It specifies that in Western English-speaking cultures, so think the US, the UK, Australia, Canada, etc., eye contact is not optional. It is mandatory for signaling respect and engagement.
Because in some other cultures, looking a person directly in the eye could be seen as aggressive or disrespectful.
Correct. But in the cultural context of this specific social fluency guide, avoiding eye contact signals one of three negative things: deception, insecurity, or boredom, none of which you want to project.
So how much is the right amount? I don't want to stare them down like a predator.
The general guideline is called the 50-70 rule. You maintain eye contact about 50% of the time while you are speaking and about 70% of the time while they are speaking.
Oh, that's interesting. You actually look at them more when they're talking.
Yes, because that's how you show you're actively listening. When you're the one talking, it's actually natural and expected to look away briefly, to glance up or to the side as you access your memory or formulate your thoughts. In fact, if you stare at them 100% of the time while you talk, it comes across as very intense and unnatural.
And where should I be looking?
Yeah.
Just like right into their pupil.
No, don't try to laser focus on one spot. A good technique is the triangle. You just gently rotate your gaze between their left eye, their right eye, and their mouth. It keeps your eyes moving just enough so it doesn't feel like a piercing stare.
Okay, now let's talk about the nodding. The source specifically warns against becoming the bobblehead. This is when you're so nervous or so eager to please that you just nod furiously at every single thing they say.
We have all seen this person.
Yeah.
And we've all been this person. You're talking to them and their head is just going up and down like a piston. Yeah, it's totally, exactly right. Yeah.
Why is that bad? On the surface, it looks like you're being really enthusiastic and agreeable.
It looks manic. And more importantly, it completely devalues your agreement. If you nod at everything, you're effectively agreeing with nothing. It signals a kind of submission, not partnership. It says, please like me, I'll agree with anything.
So what's the alternative? The source calls it the slow nod.
The slow nod. It's a subtle power move. You wait for them to make a substantial point, a key insight, and then you give one. Slow, deliberate nod.
What does that communicate?
It communicates, I am carefully processing what you just said, I understand its weight, and I agree with it. It projects confidence and thoughtfulness, not nervous energy.
So your nodding becomes punctuation.
Exactly. Use your body language as punctuation, not as conversational white noise.
One thing the source didn't mention explicitly, but it's something I've always wondered about, is body positioning. Specifically, the direction of your feet.
Oh, that's a classic tell from the world of body language. It's the torso versus the toes principle.
Yeah.
I can be facing you with my torso, smiling, nodding, looking you in the eye. But if my feet are pointed toward the door,
You're looking for an escape route.
my body is trying to leave the conversation. The feet are often considered the most honest part of the body because we don't consciously control them as much. So if you want to show someone you are truly 100% engaged, point your toes at them. It's a powerful subconscious signal that says, I am right here with you and I'm not going anywhere.
I am now going to be checking everyone's shoes in every conversation for the rest of my life.
Just try not to make it too obvious.
So let's recap the toolkit. We have the ARE method for making the initial approach. We have open-ended questions to generate those conversational hooks. We have echoing to deepen the rapport and keep it going. And we have the nonverbal control to look confident and engaged. But I feel like there's still a big mental hurdle. All these tics are fantastic, but in the moment, when I see that stranger across the room, I still feel that fear, that pressure to be impressive.
And that brings us to the final, and I would argue the most important part of the source material, the mindset shift.
This was the part that made me just exhale. Felt like getting permission to stop trying so hard.
The source identifies something it calls social perfectionism as the root cause of almost all social anxiety. We go into a conversation with this impossible checklist in our heads. I need to be funny. I need to be smart. I need to tell a really good story. I need to impress this person.
I need to perform.
Right. You've turned it into a performance. And that performance anxiety is what creates the cortisol spike. It's what shuts down the creative, spontaneous part of your brain.
So what's the alternative goal? If my goal isn't to be impressive, What am I trying to be?
The goal is to be relatable.
Relatable.
Connection is not built on impressiveness. It's built on shared humanity. If you use the ARE method and reveal that you're tired or hungry or confused about where to go or that you hate the loud music, you are being relatable. And relatable is magnetic. Impressive is often intimidating.
It reminds me of that concept from psychology, the spotlight effect.
Yes.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
It's the cognitive bias, where we fundamentally believe that everyone is looking at us, judging every word we say, every micro movement we make. We think the spotlight is on us. But in reality,
everyone else is thinking about themselves.
exactly. Everyone else in the room is suffering from the exact same spotlight effect. They're not sitting there judging your small talk skills. They're sitting there worrying about their small talk skills.
So if you can be the one person who makes them feel comfortable, who takes the social pressure off them by leading the conversation,
You instantly win. You become the most charismatic person in the room. Not because you said the smartest thing, but because you made them feel safe and interesting.
the source has this one line that I think just sums it all up perfectly. Don't try to be interesting. Try to be interested.
That's good.
Curiosity cures anxiety. If you are genuinely curious about the other person, if your mental energy is focused on hunting for hooks in their sentences and listening for hot words that you can echo, you literally don't have enough brain power left to be anxious about yourself.
You turn the camera around.
You turn the camera around.
Yeah.
You stop filming a documentary about your own awkwardness and you start filming one about their life. You stop being a performer on a stage. You become an interviewer. You become a detective. You become a host.
That is such a liberating mental shift. Turn the camera around. I'm going to remember that.
It changes the entire dynamic.
Now, the source material doesn't just leave us with these warm, fuzzy feelings and psychological theories. It actually assigns homework. And I love it when there's practical homework.
It does. It gives a very specific challenge. It says, go out and try the ARE method in a low-stakes environment.
So do not try this for the first time on your boss.
No!
And do not try this on a first date.
Absolutely not. Try it on a barista. Try it on the person standing next to you waiting for the bus. Try it on a cashier at the grocery store.
Why low stakes?
Because if it fails, who cares? You will probably never see that person again in your life. If you say, wow, this bus is taking forever, anchor, I'm going to be late for my appointment, reveal, does it usually run this late? Encourage. And they just grunt at you and look away. Fine. You didn't lose anything. You just practiced. You did your reps.
You built the muscle.
Exactly. Social fluency is a muscle, not a gene. You have to go to the gym to build it. And the grocery store line is your gym. The bus stop is your gym.
I'm actually going to do this. I'm going to try it today. I'm going to find a conversation partner, and I'm going to anchor, reveal, and encourage them.
I want a full report.
So let's bring this all home for everyone listening. We've covered a lot of ground here today. If you take just one thing away from this entire deep dive, what do you think it should be?
For me, it's the idea that the dreaded lull, that awkward silence, isn't a personal failure. It's not a sign that you're boring. It's just a signal that you need to switch tools. When that silence hits, don't panic. Just reach into your new toolkit. Throw out an open-ended question, echo their last interesting word, drop an ARE combo. You have the mechanics now. You don't have to rely on luck or inspiration anymore.
I love that. And I want to tease something for a future deep dive, because the source material briefly mentions that once you get really, really good at this, once you can start any conversation and you can keep it alive with hooks and echoes, eventually you run into a brand new problem.
You can't get out.
Laughs. You're trapped in your own success. You're stuck in the buffet line talking about red-eye flates for the next 3 hours because you're just too good at it.
And that is a real problem. The art of the graceful exit is just as important, just as much of a skill as the art of the approach. How do you leave a conversation politely without making the other person feel abandoned or rejected?
So the Irish goodbye, just disappearing, is not the recommended strategy.
Laughs. No, walking backwards into a hedge like Homer Simpson is rarely the most professional answer.
Okay, we will definitely have to do a deep dive on the exit strategy sometime soon. But for today, the message is to focus on the entrance. Focus on building that bridge.
And remember the mindset. Be relatable, not brilliant. Be interested, not interesting.
I want to leave all of you with one final thought to chew on as you go about your day. Think about the last time you really, truly connected with someone new. Was it because they impressed you with a long monologue about all their achievements? Or was it because they asked great questions and made you feel like the most interesting person in the room?
It's almost always the latter, isn't it?
Almost always. So go out there, turn the camera around, and master the art of small talk. Thanks for diving in with us.
See you next time.
Catch you later.